What's up guys, in this video I'll be doing my 2023 preseason top 25. So there's going to be two sections to this, a 2022 section and a 2023 section. So the 2022 section is going to have the ranking of each team, like where they finished off, and how they did in their conference, what their overall record was by the end of the season, and if they won a bowl game, then I'll have that one there, and also have the outcome, like whether they won or lost their rivalry game. The 2023 section will have all sorts of information, like players that they lost to the draft, coaching hires, transfer portal, or sorts of information like that. Without further ado, let's get into it. At number 1, I have Georgia. This isn't an argument. Georgia's the number 1 team heading into 2023. In 2022, Georgia finished ranked 1. They were the SEC champions. They went 15-0. They won the Peach Bowl semifinal, and they won the national championship. They also won their rival versus Florida. This is a picture-perfect year for any team. They checked all the boxes. It was just an amazing year overall for Georgia. Heading into 2023, Georgia loses their starting QB, Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett seemed like he was there forever, since before I was even born. They do keep tight end Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, so they have some good veteran players at the skill positions. Defense will be loaded as usual. Georgia always has a good defense. They're going to be top 10, top 5 this year, even though they lost Keely Ringo and Jalen Carter. They have the best roster, and they have the second best coach in college football. Some of y'all might get mad, but I do think they have an easy SEC East schedule. They have no one to challenge them for that spot in the SEC championship besides maybe Tennessee, and they won't even be as good as they were last year. They lose Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt, and honestly, like all the other good SEC teams are in the West. At number 2, I have Michigan. Michigan finished ranked 3. They were the Big Ten champions. They went 13-1 and lost to TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. So this is the second year in a row they lost in the CFP semifinal, but the second year in a row they won the Big Ten championship and also beat Ohio State. This past year in 2022, they beat Ohio State in the shoe with an embarrassing fashion, 45-23. The tide has turned in the rivalry. Heading into 2023, Michigan's starting QB, J.J. McCarthy, returns. They have the best running back room in the country, and along with the running back room, they have an amazing offensive line like always, because you know those Big Ten offensive lines are good. The defense will take a small step back this year because some of their key starters left, but they'll still be good. Jim Harbaugh and his successful physical play calling will still be there, but so y'all know, Jim Harbaugh is actually going to be suspended for the first 3 games of Michigan's season, but since Michigan plays sucky out of conference games, they should be fine. They don't play any real teams till like week 4 or 5. Moving on to rank 3, I have the Ohio State. In 2022, Ohio State finished ranked 4. They were Big Ten East second place. They went 11-2 and lost to their rival, Michigan. They also lost in the Peach Bowl semifinal to Georgia. Heading into 2023, Ohio State loses their starting QB, C.J. Stroud, for the draft. He was number 2 overall pick to the Houston Texans. And the 2 players fighting for this job is Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. I think Kyle McCord will win, but this battle looks like it'll go into their week 1 game. Ohio State, of course, has the best wide receiver room in the country for like the 3rd straight year. So many great players, so many 5- and 4-star recruits. Ohio State will have a young offensive line heading into the season. They did have some transfers from like San Diego State and UL Monroe, which have some experience, and they also have their own. They'll be good. The offensive line will be fine. The defense, heading through their second year with Jim Knowles, will be top 15. They're going to be good, and I think they'll actually be able to like hold on to some games instead of like choking like they would against Michigan, like last year against Michigan and Georgia, where the defense was the reason they lost. Brian Hartline will take over offensive play calling, like partly. He's going to him and Ryan Day will share the duties. Because before, Ryan Day would just do all play calling. At number 4, I have LSU. In 2022, LSU finished ranked 16. They were the SEC West champions, going 10-4, losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. They got embarrassed by Tennessee, lost to FSU in like a neutral site, and also lost to Texas A&M. They won the Citrus Bowl like by a mile against Purdue, and they also won their rivalry versus Arkansas. Overall, it was a very good year for LSU, considering that they had some pretty bad years ever since the 2019 miracle year. Heading into 2023, starting QB Jaden Daniels stays. They have a great linebacker room, and Harold Perkins is a beast. Like, he's a really good linebacker, and he's like a freshman, I think. They have the third best wide receiver core. They have, like, the schedule has most of the toughest games at home. They play in the SEC West, so it's a tough schedule, but luckily it's favorable in that they play at home. And they also brought in a really good portal class, ranking number 2. Overall, LSU is going to be a good team this year. I think I have them at number 4. I think they're going to beat Bama because just Bama seems a bit wonky in the quarterback situation. Wide receivers aren't like totally up to it. And this is like second year for Brian Kelly. I think everything's going to go up from here. Moving on to number 5, Penn State. In 2022, Penn State finished ranked 7. They were Big Ten East 3rd, just behind their rival Michigan that they lost to, and Ohio State. They did win the Rose Bowl, though, against the Pac-12 champion Utah. Heading into 2023, Penn State has their multi-year starter, Sean Clifford, has left for the draft. He was like 3-year starter there or something. They have a great running back room. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton are great, like really, really good. They're very talented and young. The new QB, Drew Aller, is also very talented, and he has a very high ceiling. I think he's better overall than Sean Clifford. He can run faster, stronger arm, stuff like that. Overall, team is also like more talented than they've ever been, like since 2017, like when Saquon was there. And Penn State, like since I have high hopes for them. Many other people in their preseason polls have them pretty high. Like if Penn State doesn't beat Ohio State or Michigan this year, like James Franklin might be questioned if he's the right guy for the job. I've heard some people saying it. I don't think they'll fire him if he loses again because he's a good coach. Just he hasn't knocked off one of the big dogs in a while now. At number 6, I have Alabama. In 2022, Alabama finished ranked 5. They were SEC West 2nd place. They went 11-2 and lost to Tennessee and LSU. LSU was the team that beat them for the SEC West title. Alabama also won the Sugar Bowl against Kansas State, and they won their rivalry versus Auburn. Obviously, 11-2 wasn't what Alabama fans and Alabama standards want. What they expect is a national championship every single year. Heading to 2023, Alabama loses their Heisman Trophy winner from 2021, like their 2021 Heisman Trophy winner, Bryce Young, to the NFL Draft. He was the number 1 overall pick to the Carolina Panthers. Once again, Alabama has the number 1 recruiting class in 2023 cycle. But here are some negatives. First off, the QB situation is kind of weird. None of those guys really have that it factor and give like the same feeling as like Tua, Jalen, and Bryce. They just don't look, they're not as talented, and just overall arm talent isn't there. Of course though, everywhere else Alabama is stacked at. Just wide receiver, last year they had some dropping passes, and usually when you think of Alabama, they have like even 2 years ago they had Jamison Williams and John Mechie, and then there's like Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle. But like heading to this season, I don't really know anybody's name off my top of the head that I could think of that was really good and was like eye-popping. Like when I think of good receivers, I think of Marvin Harrison. Last year I would think of Jalen Hyatt. Like these type of players. I don't think of an Alabama one. A huge advantage that Alabama has is that they have the greatest coach of all time, Nick Saban. Alabama will be fine this year, but I do think they won't be up to standards again for the second year in a row. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. That's how I think it's going to be for Alabama. At number 7 is USC. In 2022, USC finished ranked 12. They were the Pac-12 runner-up. They went 11-3, and they lost to Utah twice and Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. So they lost to not Tulane. They lost to Utah in the regular season, and then they also lost to them in the Pac-12 championship game. Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy last year, and he's actually going to be returning. And also, USC won their rivalry last year, so it was a pretty successful season, and they're going to be a good team because ever since Lincoln Riley take over, it's just they've turned to a good team because before they were a mess. So I already mentioned Caleb Williams is staying. They have a great transfer portal class. They had an amazing one the year before when Caleb Williams came in. Once again, they have a good one. Defense will be subpar, but it will be slightly better. But come on now, you can't get worse than that USC defense, so they're going to be better. They have the fourth best wide receiver room. They have a bunch of talent on there, so Caleb Williams will have plenty of weapons to throw to, and they'll just be better because Lincoln Riley will have a second year at USC with his system at place, and they'll just know the system a bit better. At number 8, I have Florida State. In 2022, Florida State finished ranked 11. They were the ACC Atlantic second place. They went 10-3, lost to Wake Forest, NC State, and Clemson. They also won the Cheez-It Bowl against Oklahoma. And they beat their rival, Florida. Good season for Florida State. It seems like they finally have turned it around with Mike Norvell. I think it's only going to go up from here. That is why I have them ranked so high, of course. Heading into 2023, their insane dual threat QB Jordan Travis returns. They return defensive end Jared Verse, who's great. They got the number 6 transfer portal class. They're going to have a good offensive line to help Jordan Travis as well. And like I said, Mike Norvell has finally figured things out, and I think this is going to be a great program for several years to come. At number 9, I have Clemson. Clemson finished ranked 13. They were the ACC champions. They went 11-3, losing to Notre Dame, South Carolina, which is their rivalry, and Tennessee, which was in the Orange Bowl. Heading into 2023, Clemson is hoping to get back to their usual standards that they had, like 2016 to 2019, 2020. Former 5-star QB Cade Klubnik, who started in the Orange Bowl, will be the starter this next season. Will Shipley, a great running back, is returning. They're getting a great offensive coordinator from TCU, so that will be a great addition and will just help their offense be even better. Defense has never been a problem for Clemson. They'll be good again. Just the past 2 seasons, it was always offensive problems. So defense is going to be great. And also, Clemson has a favorable schedule and all their tough games at home. They don't have to really go into the road against their toughest opponents. At number 10, I have Utah. In 2022, Utah finished ranked 10. They're the Pac-12 champions. They went 10-4, losing to Florida, Oregon, UCLA, and Penn State in the Rose Bowl. They did win their rivalry against BYU. Another solid year by Utah, making the Rose Bowl for the second time, but they weren't able to win it once again. Pac-12 champions back-to-back, being USC, who is the favorite with Caleb Williams, and they basically destroyed the playoff hopes. Heading into 2023, sixth-year senior quarterback Cameron Rising returns. Utah will lose some wide receivers, so the wide receiver core won't be as good, and Cameron Rising might have a bit more trouble. Utah, of course, though, is going to be solid at everything still. Yes, they lost some key wide receivers, but they're still going to be fine. They're not going to be devastated. They'll be good in the trenches like always, and head coach Kyle Whittingham knows how to succeed in the Pac-12, and for the past several years, he's really been putting on good record after good record after good record. At number 11, I have Oregon. In 2022, Oregon finished ranked 15. They were Pac-12 third place. They embarrassingly lost to Georgia in week 1. They lost to Washington and also to their rival Oregon State. They did win their Holiday Bowl and they ended up with the record 10-3. Solid year overall for the Oregon Ducks. They started off kind of slow, didn't look very good, but near the end they actually looked like a very solid team. Heading into 2023, starting QB Bo Nix returns, and he actually has some Heisman odds on him. They have a new offensive line, so it might just be a bit tougher for him than last year was. They also lost their offensive coordinator, Kenny Dillingham, so there's going to be some changes to the offense, so I wouldn't be surprised if they started off slow again for the first 2 to 3 weeks. The run game play style is very good though, running QB Bo Nix and good running backs, so that won't be the problem. And also they have a defensive-minded head coach, Dan Lanning from Georgia, who had that historical defense, and this is his second year, so he will only make the defense better than what they were last year. So yeah, this Oregon Ducks team will be solid. I think that they'll be slightly better than what they were last year. At number 12, I have Texas. So this is the year actually everybody's on the Texas is back hype train. It'd actually be so funny if they failed again, because everyone's going crazy right now. I have them at 12, so I'm kind of on that train, but even ESPN has them above. They're at 11 on ESPN AP Top 25, but still, I've seen people have them even as high as 7 or 8. That's a bit too high, in my personal opinion, because I need to first those people that have them in the top 10 is mainly they're just trying to hype that Alabama-Texas game, even though I really don't think Texas is a top 10 team. I have to see them first for sure, because they will be unpredictable. So in 2022, Texas finished ranked 25, of course. They were Big 12 third place. They went 8-5, losing to Alabama 20-19. That was a tough one for the Texas fans. They lost to Texas Tech, which was a surprise. They lost to Oklahoma State, TCU, and Washington, which was in the Alamo Bowl. But they did win their rivalry versus Oklahoma by a blowout. So they did beat Oklahoma, but then they disappointed in the Alamo Bowl, and then they almost pulled off that Alabama win. Heading to 2023, Texas returns 10 starters on the offensive side, so that's great. Good veteran, experience. But they do lose their star running back, who was their best player. He went to the Falcons number 8 or something in the NFL draft. I think he's going to be great. He's a really good running back. They have the second best wide receiver room. Xavier Worthy is going to pop off. He's one of on my list. He's one of the best receivers. I have Marvin Harrison, and then man, he might even be. I don't know. He's just a great receiver. He'll be great for Quinn Ewers to throw to. The offensive line will be mid. See, the problem Texas has been having for these years is that their line is holding them back. It's not steady. It's not sturdy. So if you don't have a good line, you know what's going to happen. It's like the foundation. If you don't have a foundation on the house, it's going to fall apart. So you have to have the line. That's like the most important. And lastly, Quinn Ewers and also Arch Manning. And also their third QB. They have a good QB room, like really good. Arch Manning is a bit overhyped, but still he he'll be good in a little while once he actually gets some mentorship from Ewers. So yeah, I think Texas will be a solid team, but I'm not believing like some people are saying they're a playoff team. Nah, I think they'll be more of a 9-10 win team this year. At number 13, I have Notre Dame. Notre Dame finished ranked 18 last year. They're not in a conference, so they couldn't win any championship for the conference. They went 9-4 with like a rocky starts. They lost to Ohio State in the shoe. Then they got big upset at their like in South Bend against Marshall. They also lost to Stanford, which they weren't supposed to, and then they lost to USC, who they were supposed to lose to. Like they weren't favored to win. So 2 of those 4 wins were actually upsets. So this team should have gone 11-2. Most people were thinking that they'd go 11-2 at the start of last season, because Ohio State was favored and it was at home and it's Ohio State. Come on. But anyway, Notre Dame did finish off the season strong, and they won the Gator Bowl. But of course, they lost to USC, their rival. Well, their biggest rival. In 2020, like heading to 2023, the Wake transfer, Sam Hartman, who like has a bunch of ACC records, will be under center. So that's a massive add for them to have a guy that has so much experience. They do lose their star tight end Michael Mayer to the NFL draft, so they'll need to find someone to fix, to fill in that hole. Cause good blocker, good catcher, good player. Notre Dame once again will have an amazing offensive line. Like whenever I think of Notre Dame, I think of like a good offensive line and gold helmets. That's what I think of. So they're gonna have like amazing offensive line. They don't have to worry about front set. Like the front is good. They're skilled players. Just need to match up against the big dogs, skilled players. Offensive coordinator Tommy Rees leaves, so they're gonna have to kind of. I think they'll be fine, but they will have to kind of adjust a little. Their offense might be a bit slow for the first 2 or 3 games, but luckily they don't play Ohio State till like week 4, I think. And I think they play Cupcakes for the first 3 weeks, so they should be fine about that. And me personally, I don't know if Marcus Freeman is the right guy totally. He does say some, like, sometimes I remember there was some beef between him and Ohio State a couple of times, where he like talks smack about them, and then like some stuff was happening there. But yeah, I don't know about him how he's going to turn out. But other than that, I think Notre Dame is going to be solid. They're probably going to lose 2 games again. I think they'll lose to Ohio State again, even though it's in South Bend. But this team will be good. They'll be better because, especially with that Wake transfer, Sam Hartman. At number 14, I have Washington. In 2022, Washington finished ranked 8th. They were Pac-12 third place, which was like a really close race. They went 11-2, lost to UCLA and Arizona State. They won the rivalry versus Washington State, and they also won the Alamo Bowl. Successful year, like really successful year for Washington. I think they might even be better this year, to be honest. I put them down at 14 because they did have some lost talents, but I think is a good chance that they could honestly win the Pac-12. So I'd definitely like be watching out for Washington. Coming into this year, QB Michael Penix returns. I think he's dark horse Heisman. By this point, so many people say that he's not really dark horse anymore. I think he's a Heisman candidate. They have the fourth best wide receiver room in my opinion. Really good talent. Passing game is great, and they're going to have like air. They're going to be. I mean, they're just going to have a great offense and like specifically passing game. You know what I mean? Defense is like pretty good. They're going to be solid, not amazing, but I think they'll be able to hold their own for the most part. But they do have a tough schedule because actually Washington, I mean the Pac-12 has been a good conference. They like ever since USC came up, like now they already have a playoff contender right there. Oregon State's been getting better, and also they have to play a Big Ten foe. Of course, it's MSU, but I think it's at MSU, and it's not the best Big Ten team, but still you have to go like across country. So yeah. At number 15, I have Tennessee. So this might be low for some people. Like for the most preseason polls I've seen, like the general ranking is like 12, I'd say 12, 11, even like 10. I just don't think Tennessee is going to be as good as people think. They're still going to be solid, but not that good. They'll be like top 15, like very at the brink of it, really. Number 15 is where I have them. They could prove me wrong, but they lost like Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, and they lost some important pieces. So I don't know if they'll be as electrifying as everyone thinks they will be. They like finished ranked 6th last year. They had a miracle year. We all saw. SEC East 2nd place though. Georgia of course had to ruin like the dream season. They lost to Georgia, South Carolina, leading them to their 11-2 record. They beat Bama, everyone knows, after like a 15-game losing streak against them. And they also beat Clemson in the orangest of Orange Bowls. Into 2023, they are losing Hendon Hooker for the draft. Wide receiver room will be great, but like even though Jalen Hyatt is gone, so it will still be good, but not as good as last year. They have a very effective offensive play style actually. Hypo, like he has fast paced offense. I think like this Tennessee offense that we saw last year, I think that's going to be the future of college football offenses. Fast paced, no huddle, That's what I think it's going to be. And I'm guessing he's going to use that same thing this next year. And they're going to definitely be averaging probably like 35, 40 points a game. So defense is going to be about the same. Secondary, like DBs will be their weak spot because like the main game I watched was Alabama and they were getting toasted, and really I think they'll still have that same problem. It's not like they got a really good transfer or anybody. I don't know anybody that's really going to solve that secondary problem, so I think they'll still have about the same defense. But anyway, I do think Tennessee will have another good year, probably like 9 wins, 10 wins, somewhere around there. I don't think it'll be as good as next year, but you know what? They could prove me wrong, and I'd actually like them to see me prove me wrong because I'd rather have Tennessee be at the top than Georgia. At number 16, I have Oregon State. In 2022, Oregon State was actually better than what most people thought. They finished 10-3 with losses to USC, Utah, and Washington. They were Pac-12 5th place, and Pac-12 was like neck and neck. Anybody really could have made it. It was like just a couple games if that went differently. Would have had completely different teams in the championship. They finished ranked 17, and they also won their rivalry versus Oregon. Heading into 2023, transfer QB from Clemson, DJ Uiagalelei, will be under center for them, and I think he'll be better because Clemson had a really simple offense because they were almost all the time they were better than the team and they could just pound it at you. They didn't really have to put many concepts in to beat a team, but Oregon State needs to be more creative against teams because they don't have the same talent and they'll need to have better play calling and just overall recognition of things. The run game will also be good. Oregon State's top 3 running backs are back, so that's going to help out a lot. So veteran offensive line, all the great pieces for a good pass game and for the run game. And also their defense was number 1 in the Pac-12 in 2022, and it's going to be good again. I don't know if it'll be as good, but it'll be solid for sure. At number 17, I have Oklahoma. Oklahoma finished unranked last year. They were Big 12 8th place. They went 6-7, losing to Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Florida State in the Cheez-It Bowl. So everything pretty much went awful for Oklahoma. They lost to their rival. They didn't even win a bowl game. They had a losing record. And they were 8th place in the Big 12, which never happens. It was a totally different year than usual, but they did have their first year head coach with Brett Venables, so I think they'll definitely be better and improve because their QB Dylan Gabriel returns. Defense will be improved because Brett Venables is a really good defensive coordinator. Well, and he was a defensive coordinator, and he's very good defensive minded. And they also had 5-1 score losses last year, and those could be 5-1 score wins. So, yeah, and they also had number 8 transfer portal class, top 5 recruiting class. So they're clicking everywhere else. Just if they could fix things back up on the field next year, then they'll be back on track to where they were with Lincoln Riley. At 18, I have TCU. So we all know what happened last year. TCU had a miracle season, winning games by an inch. It was very entertaining to watch. They made it to the playoffs, beat Michigan, and then they did end up losing to Georgia. It wasn't a pretty game, but still, they had a magical year, and it was just they were the team no one expected to make the playoffs, and they were I think they were even unranked before the season even started. So they finished ranked 2, Big 12 runner-up. Yeah, they lost to Kansas State. Everyone forgets that Kansas State was the winner, not TCU. They also lost to Georgia in the Natty, so 13-2. They won the Fiesta Bowl. They also won the rivalry versus Baylor. And so the reason they have them so low is because they lose so many players, and also they lost their offensive coordinator Garrett Riley. So they lost Max Duggan, Condre Miller, Quinton Johnstone. These are their 3 important players: starting QB, starting running back, and number 1 receiver. So bam, gone. And offensive coordinator gone. This offense is going to be totally different. Not going to be anybody really the same in those star spots, and the coordinator will totally be different. So that's why I think they'll have an overall step back. Defense will be about the same, not good. And they will have high expectations naturally. I think that people think that they're going to make the top, that they might be a New Year's Six team, not a playoff team, but someone might think they're a New Year's Six team, but I honestly don't think they will reach that. I think they're more of an Alamo Bowl, Texas Bowl level right now. Going this is what I think they're going to be around that level this season. At number 19, I have Wisconsin. In 2022, Wisconsin finished unranked. They were Big Ten West 5th place. They went 7-6, losing to Washington State, Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan State, Iowa, and their rival Minnesota. So this was not a normal year for Wisconsin, of course, they usually are competing for the Big Ten West title, and usually they are the team representing the West, but they barely had a winning record, but they at least won the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Into 2023, I think this Wisconsin team will definitely be better. Star running back Braylon Allen is going to stay. They have great coaches like Luke Fickell, and then their offensive coordinator is really good as well. So, so speaking of these coaches, the play style is going to be way different because usually when you think of Wisconsin, you think of like a pounding offense, like run the ball, like run first, pass second. But I think that's going to change now. They're going to be a bit more balanced, and they also like a transfer QB Tanner Mordecai, and they have a good offensive line. So the QB should not be under pressure too often because Wisconsin's like, when I think of good offensive line, I think of Iowa, Wisconsin, and Michigan. At 20, I have Ole Miss. Ole Miss finished unranked. They were SEC West 4th place. They went 8-5, losing to LSU, Alabama, Arkansas, their rival Mississippi State, and Texas Tech in the Texas Bowl. So overall, Ole Miss didn't hit a bunch of boxes. They didn't get the rivalry win. They didn't win a bowl game. They were unranked, so they didn't really check any of those like major boxes. But I think they'll still be a solid team this year, top 20. But I don't think they'll have an amazing year, like finish top 10. They do though have like good QBs, Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders. That's a good QB battle going on. The run game is with Quinshon Judkins will be good. I like Judkins, really good player. Enjoy watching him. They have the number 3 transfer portal class. They've been on it with these transfer portals. And so they'll have some nice veteran players to fill in some missing pieces. The defense is going to improve because of that, and they're in the SEC West, so they're going to have a difficult schedule because that's like SEC West is really hard to play in, and you're going to always have a tough schedule. At number 21, I have Kansas State. Kansas State finished ranked 14. They were the Big 12 champions, and they beat TCU, who eventually went on to go play for the national championship. They went 10-4, losing to Tulane, TCU, Texas, and Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. And they won their rivalry versus Kansas. This was a really good year for Kansas State. They made a New Year's Six bowl game, won their rivalry, and won the Big 12. Heading into 2023, QB Will Howard, 4-0, was taking over the team, and he was 4-0 in games he started when filling in for Adrian Martinez. Adrian Martinez is gone, and so is Deuce Vaughn, their running back, who is very fun to watch. They will have a great O-line, so he won't have to worry too much. He won't be running for his life. They'll have a stiff defense, and they're overall a tough physical team, and people shouldn't underestimate them this season because they'll definitely be one of the toughest games on most Big Ten teams. Like, they'll be pretty tough for most Big 12 teams. So I think they'll have another good year. Probably not as good as they just had. I don't think they'll win the Big 12, but they'll still put up a solid performance. At number 22, I have Texas Tech. In 2022, Texas Tech finished unranked. They were Big 12 4th place. They went 8-5, losing to NC State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, their rival Baylor, and TCU. They did win the Texas Bowl. Overall, this was a solid year for Texas Tech. But there were a couple things that didn't go well for them, like the Baylor game, and of course, Big 12 aspirations. Heading into 2023, QB Tyler Show is coming back. 8 defensive starters are coming back. 7 offensive starters are coming back. They're basically almost there in every spot. This is going to be one of the best Texas Tech teams that they have had in like the past 20 years. They're solid everywhere, and I think they could honestly maybe have 9 or 10 wins this season. Just saying. Dark horse Big 12 champs is what I think. At number 23, I have Iowa. I know. A lot of y'all think Iowa doesn't even deserve to be in the top 25. Some of y'all even think they're not even a top 40 team. But look, y'all, yes, I know their offense is trash. Brian Ferentz is trash. I know. I don't think he's a good offensive coordinator either. Literally at number 5 in the 2023 section, I say Brian Ferentz is still offensive coordinator because I know he's not that good. But they're not going to be that bad. Like, look, I know they're going to let's get into it, okay. They finished unranked. They're Big Ten West 3rd, 8-5, lost to Iowa State, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, Nebraska. And they also won the Music City Bowl against Kentucky. Bam, they won a bowl game. They beat Kentucky, SEC team. They lost their rivalry, yeah. They barely could score like 14 points a game, it seemed like it. But they'll be better. The transfer quarterback Cade McNamara will be there. Offense should be better. You can't really be worse than them. They were like literally dead last. They have a good running back in Caleb Johnson. Stellar defense. I don't care how many pieces they miss. Iowa always has a good defense. And Brian Ferentz, yeah, I know. Brian Ferentz is not a good offensive coordinator, but Iowa will improve from last year. You will see. At number 24, I have North Carolina. North Carolina finished unranked. They were ACC runner-up, losing to Clemson in the championship game. They went 9-5, losing to Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, NC State, Clemson, and Oregon. And Oregon was in the Holiday Bowl, and they won their rivalry versus Duke. Solid year overall. Almost got the ACC championship win, but I do think that they'll be better because I just think Drake May will really just carry this team into the top 25. And like defense isn't going to be good. They're mid everywhere. They lost like the wide receiver you see in this picture was lost to the NFL draft. Like they're mid everywhere, but they have a great QB. I think they'll be able to be top 25, but I think they'll be around 9-5, probably maybe like 10-3 is possible. I think they're in that 9-10 win season, possibly 8, but I think they're around there. I think they're going to be solid. Just Drake May is going to have to carry. To finish off my top 25, I have Minnesota. Minnesota finished unranked. They're Big Ten West, 4th place. They went 9-4, losing to Purdue, Illinois, Penn State, and Iowa. They won the Pinstripe Bowl, and they won the rivalry versus Wisconsin. Overall, it was a solid year, and I think they might even do a bit better. They might also just go 9-4 again, but I think they'll still be in like the 8 to. I think they'll be 8-9 win range again. So QB Ethan Kaliakmanis will start, and he's like stronger arm than Tanner Morgan had, more like elusive. I think he'll be better overall for them. They will lose their running back Mohamed Ibrahim. They have a good receiving core, so the passing game will be good. But the offensive line will be a little shaky, I think, just to start, because like the first couple games might be a little shaky, but then they'll get normal again. And I think that the overall offense will take a step forward. And I didn't really mention the defense much, because I think it'll stay about the same. Like, I think it'll be kind of mid overall. Okay, so that concludes my top 25 polls. If comment down below what changes you would make, and you can say if like what I did wrong, if I have some crazy pick, who you think's underrated, and overall just put down your thoughts below. I want to hear what y'all think. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll be back with another banger in a little bit.